I thought I would spend tonight telling you a few stories. This book is written in a narrative form, and it is a direct result of many of you in the room going on a journey with me and inspiring me. So I want to thank you because you are responsible as much as I am for basic blockchain. And before I get into the storytelling, I can't help myself as soon as someone hauls out the Gartner Lifecycle, which I love with all my heart, I have to comment. As someone who studies innovation and understands sort of how innovation cycles occur, or super cycles. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I'm old enough to remember the dot-com boom and actually have worked in it, and I'm ashamed to admit, helped fuel it as a venture capitalist investing in it. And I remember, although I don't think I did any incredibly stupid deals, I do remember people investing in things like pets.com, where you were shipping a £5 bag of dog food that weighed 30 kilos and somehow thought you were going to make money. And I remember vividly in 2001, after the dot-com bubble burst, there was a weekly article about not if Amazon would go bankrupt, but when it would go out of business. Now, of course, one of the most valuable companies in the world. So when I look at this blockchain space, and I get a lot of questions from people saying, has the bubble passed? Have we missed the peak? Is everything going to fall apart next week? I just think about the fact that innovation cycles naturally go through phases of experimentation, proliferation, consolidation, and utility. Every single innovation we've ever seen. Does everyone remember the Edsel car company? Right? There are a lot of failures that litter the path towards greatness. And so when I think about blockchain, I think this is still very, very early in its development as a market and as a technology. And so with that, I'll kind of get into some stories. Okay, so as Linda shared, and thank you, Linda, the London Blockchain Foundation for hosting me tonight. Several years ago, I was lecturing at MIT. Actually, this was even before I was teaching at MIT. So I have a long history of teaching at university, but I took some time off from that to actually help run a university. So I was brought in by MIT to help them actually, essentially innovate some of their internal administrative matters. So, I launched a new academic program, and I created the digital strategy for their online learning, and I was building a research group with a fascinating professor that many of you have heard of, Professor Alex Sandy Pentland. So I was running Sandy's research group. I remember how excited we are when we got our first $100,000 seed grant from UBS, which started a whole amazing journey. That group, Connection Science, is now the largest research group in the entire Institute for Data Systems and Society at MIT. So it's grown into something quite extraordinary. But it took a lot of work. So I'm running around helping build that. And this young student MBA student, came into our offices because Sandy, in addition to doing research, he administered the Media Lab entrepreneurship program. So he taught a family of about a dozen entrepreneurship classes on campus, starting years ago. And so she came into our offices and she said, "Hi, I just started the MIT Sloan FinTech Club." Now this was in 2015. I started the MIT Sloan FinTech Club, and we had 150 people sign up in a week. Why don't we have a FinTech Ventures class? So we kind of looked at each other, and I was talking to a colleague there, Joost Bonsen. And Joost said, "Well, I'm teaching 6 classes this fall. I don't have time to teach it." And I said, "Well, I've got 3 jobs. I don't have time to teach it either." And this student refused to leave our offices until we agreed to teach the class. This student was Meltem Demirors, who many people call the Sheryl Sandberg of blockchain, although she hates that name. But she's done quite well, now Chief Strategy Officer of CoinShares and co-creator of the Oxford Blockchain Strategy class. So we put the FinTech class on campus at MIT, and we were teaching that. And it was going very well, and these two entrepreneurs from Cape Town, South Africa, walked into my office, and they were introduced by a wealthy alum who lives in London, and they said, "Hi, we're from South Africa. We're from Cape Town. It's lovely there. We'd like to put your class online." Now, they had previously only worked with some regional schools in Cape Town. The University of Cape Town, they were teaching like IT repair classes and things like that online. And this was a fairly bold statement because MIT and Harvard together invested $150 million into building something called edX, which was their online platform. And in fact, the gentleman, Raphael Reif, who is now president of MIT, was made president of MIT because he was viewed as a visionary for having started edX. So when someone walks into your office and says, "Screw edX, we've got something better," it's a fairly bold or foolish person, and I'm not much of a politician, so you can guess which, who says, "Yes, let's ignore the president's pet project and let's use your South African platform that no one's ever heard of to launch my class online." So we put the class online. It's a much longer story. I'll tell you the short version. It quickly mushroomed into 140 countries, was wildly successful, and as with many innovations, upset a lot of people because it was successful and refuted a lot of assumptions. And we covered a lot of blockchain stuff in it. And so we were going back and forth about, did we want to deal with the headache of all these people yelling at us for being successful? And meanwhile, we had started a dialogue with Peter Tufano, the dean of Saïd Business School at University of Oxford. And Peter was gung-ho and enthusiastic about what we were doing. So we said, you know what, let's just move the class over to Oxford. And so we did. I get a very satisfying email a year later from MIT saying, "I can't believe we let this slip through our fingers. Please come back." But that's another story. We still love MIT. I'm still teaching there. And in fact, we are going to do more online with them. But Peter welcomed us with open arms into Saïd Business School. We launched Oxford FinTech. And then 5 months later, we launched Oxford Blockchain Strategy. And have replicated that success of 140 countries, more than 7,000 students who are all launching new businesses, creating new innovations inside established companies, helping governments figure out how to regulate or not regulate blockchain. And it all comes back to this young Sloan student walking into my office and refusing to take no for an answer. And I think that is also a valuable lesson for all of you as you think about your blockchain startups, which are very disruptive and threatening to the establishment. Don't take no for an answer. So I'm teaching Oxford Blockchain Strategy. Many of you have taken it. How many people have not taken Oxford Blockchain Strategy? Okay. OxfordBlockchain.org. You can sign up. And it's excellent.
Is there a promo code?
Unfortunately, so funny you should mention, that has been one of my running battles for 5 years. And I intend to fix that by the summer. But for now, no, there's no promo code. Okay, so we're teaching Oxford Blockchain Strategy class, and I get this LinkedIn inquiry from a book editor. Now, this is the third inquiry I've gotten that says, "Would you please write a book on blockchain?" And my reaction to the prior 2 editors, and the same reaction to this editor, Tom Asker from Little Brown UK, was NFW. We don't need another book on blockchain. Why do we need another? There are plenty of books on blockchain. What do we need another blockchain? Michael Casey has written a breathless book on blockchain, and you know, there's endless books on blockchain. What do you need another book on blockchain for? And Don Tapscott has, you know, invariably invoked when people say, "Oh, have you read a book on blockchain?" So why do we need another one? And he said to me, you know, despite the fact that it's now, you know, close to 10 years into the blockchain revolution, or it was roughly 10 years into the blockchain revolution, and despite the fact that all these books have been written about blockchain, there still isn't a simple book that explains to most people what the heck it is. He didn't use the word heck. What the heck it is. There isn't a book that explains why it matters. Why is it important? Lots of people talk about how different consensus algorithms offer different trade-offs, and open versus closed and private versus permissionless versus permission versus lots and lots and lots of discussion of the mechanics and the technology of blockchain, but not a lot of conversation about its impact on society and its potential impact on society in a structured fashion. And I said, okay, that's a book I could write. And as I was thinking about this, I'm like, but I really don't want to write a technical manual. And I'm not sure that I just want to write a list of things. Wonderful, the CTO of Shift, which is a blockchain identity company, was commenting on a prior book we had written, and she said, your book, Trusted Data, reads like science fiction. That was really cool. And I thought about that. I'm like, well, I like science fiction. Okay, what can we do here? And so my aspiration was to create a book that reads a little bit like poetry. And so that was my intention. It's why I begin the book with a quote from Ulysses, to sail beyond the sunset of all the western stars, because we all are on a journey. And we don't know where that journey is taking us, but we suspect there's something interesting on the other end. So those were the origins of basic blockchain. It started with a student not taking no for an answer, and it ended with an editor not taking no for an answer. And I'm not a pushover either. It took a lot of convincing, but they got through. And I'm actually quite happy with how it came out. So I do encourage you. It is available now on Amazon.